This is The Philanthropy Show, connecting and inspiring philanthropy.
Welcome to The Philanthropy Show. I'm your host, Luann Saraga Walters. Today's show is at the very heart of philanthropy. It's the story of how one man is improving the lives of thousands of people in his community because he woke up one day feeling so grateful for everything that he had, his home, his job, his family, and he wanted then to do more. Kerwin is a very special person because he has taken on a task that so many of you have done throughout this country and beyond in forming a nonprofit and really coming from his heart, which is what I love about this show. Because as I said a minute ago, this is about the heart of philanthropy. It's what we do, the love of humanity. So thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you
so nice
much.
to have you.
Great to
I
be
will
here.
say that I first met Andre several months ago when we were doing an AFP, Association of Fundraising Professionals, panel for our local chapter here. And he was one of the panelists and I was moderating. And being a former football player, he showed me how to hold that. I just want to show the hands. We have a picture of this. Look at the size of this man's hands. But just a wonderful person that you're going to get to know during the course of this show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Let's give him a little background too, because you have a very special job as well, being at a prominent bank in the community, the Bank of Tampa.
Yes.
So what is your position there?
Well, I'm an assistant vice president of commercial relationship manager, and we basically oversee everything commercial, whether it be loans, deposits, that kind of things for professional clientele. So doctors, attorneys, CPAs, owner-managed business professionals in the Tampa Bay area.
And in that, you're also very involved with the nonprofit community.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
that position.
Our founder, Jerry Divers, founded the bank on the principles of we want to be a community bank for the long haul. So we want to support the community that we live in. So he's very good about allowing us to give back to the community.
Well, that's fabulous. And you know, I think that people naturally are drawn to those types of jobs that feel good and resonate with their souls.
Sure, absolutely.
As well. And in addition, Andre is also board member with Warwick Dunn Charities.
Yes, I've been the president. This is my second term, and that's just been a tremendous opportunity for me as well, and one I continue to give back to the community.
Which is fabulous. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
I love the story of how you founded No Strings Attached, your nonprofit. So tell us a little bit more about that.
We were, as you mentioned earlier, I just woke up one morning, 2007, feeling very grateful about my family, my situation, just feeling very blessed and fortunate, and I wanted to find a way to give back to the community in a very tangible way, not when we're just giving something away and not really knowing where it's going to. I wanted to be the beginning and the end in regards to the process. So I just sent out an email to family and friends, and it's really blossomed from there. And just to collect clothing and toiletries, things that we take for granted, but basic necessities. I always believe that one man's trash is another man's treasure. So we just don't want people to go out and spend money on it. We want people to think creatively and think outside of the box. And when you look around and purge your own inventory, you really realize we live in a world of surplus. And it's very easy for people to come up with a lot of items, and it doesn't cost them anything.
So you actually collect items, clothing, materials, things that we have around the house that we can then offer to the homeless.
Yes.
Why did that come to there's a lot of areas of need, so how did you become
Sure.
drawn to helping homelessness?
I'm one of those people that every time I drive up to a red light or a stop sign and I look across the street and you see somebody holding a sign, I think past their current situation and seeing them on the corner, and I'm so drawn. God tugs on my heartstrings to know their story, their situation, what put them in that situation. And through doing this over time, you realize that a bad decision or a left turn instead of a right turn, identity theft. There's a big misconception in regards to who the homeless is. And I'm that person that when I drive up to a red light and I see them and I look in their eyes, I want to know the story behind their situation, because people kind of stop there and say, oh, they're homeless. There's a reason, or they're on drugs, or there's something going on there, and that's not always the case. It's often not the case. And so I'm the person that wants to know the story, and it just tugs on my heartstrings. I just knew I had to do more.
What kinds of things do you hear?
You'd be amazed. You'd absolutely be amazed. The stories go on and on. Like a lot of identity theft, where there's a hard time proving who they are within the legal system. I became a legal payee for a gentleman I met in 2006. He was sitting on the street corner, and he came up to me and he said, he actually didn't come up to me, he was sitting on the opposite street corner, and he said, I went up to him and, so what's your situation? He's like, well, I'm empty. I said, well, you didn't take any clothes, what's your situation? He said, well, I have an identity theft, and I have back Social Security and disability that I'm owed, but I can't prove who I am because of an identity theft. I don't have any documentation. So I gave him my card. I gave him my phone number, and I said, call me if you need me. And he called me probably about 3 months later, and kind of probably against my better judgment, I went and picked him up and took him to the Social Security office. And I said, you know what, let's find out if this is actually the case. And it turned out he was owed almost $25,000.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, but they wouldn't release it to him because of his situation and because he couldn't prove a street address or anything like that. So we took the correct channels to get him what he needed, and probably within 3 weeks, I became his legal payee and had a check and an account for him for the money.
Because you took the time to do that.
Yeah, and so we were able to get him off the street, put him into an apartment, and he's been able to thrive.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, Andre, back up to when the very first day in 2007, when you sent out an email and said, I'm collecting clothing.
Mm-hmm.
What were you hoping for?
You know, I was just hoping to get enough. My prayer every year is that we give away everything or we give away nothing. If we give away everything, that means all the needs were met. If we give away nothing, that means there's no problem and an issue with homelessness. Unfortunately, that's not the reality for right now. So my hope was that we were just able to collect enough clothes to meet all the needs and the demands of the people that came. The first year, we probably collected about 1,400 items.
Wow.
Now we're over.
That's nothing to sneeze at.
No, but if you think from 2007 to 2015, we're upwards of 35,000 now.
That's fantastic.
And it's just grown organically in terms of the email. So I just wanted to try and support all the needs of the people that came out. Now we can have upwards of 500 people that need to be served come out.
So you arrange a specific area for those people who might be thinking, hey, this is a great idea. We could implement this in our community. Mm-hmm. What's the structure of that? What does it look like?
Sure,
How do you contact homeless
people
to let them know
again, sure, I get it. That was, again, an organic process. I started by flyering, walking around downtown, and just finding the areas where homeless would congregate. I printed a flyer basically saying the time and the date, that we would be there, and this is the location and the address. And I'd kind of put a little blurb on what would be included when we came out. Mm-hmm. And probably about 2 to 3 weeks before Thanksgiving in 2007, I did that. I didn't know what the turnout was going to be. And by the time I got there was probably 100 people. Mm-hmm. And each year it's grown. So that's the way we do it. And it's something that, now I'm getting contacted by St. Pete, people in St. Pete that want to transfer it over. It's a transferable program. Mm-hmm. Because it just takes somebody sending out an organic email. Mm-hmm. Now we've got a website, but it's about taking the time to make the plans, to find the area, make sure as many homeless people know about it, and then hoping that they'll come.
And because he started from his heart, things just went into place. Sharon and I are big believers in that. When you start with gratitude and you're coming through with your passion, things open up. You have no idea what that's going to be. So we're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about No Strings Attached, where that came from, how you decided to form this movement into a nonprofit, and then I know somebody who is very special to you, Dr. Neil Sayers, and how you two developed that.
Sure.
So we are going to take a quick break, but up next, we're going to have more with Andre Kerwin, as well as Truth or Care, and still to come, your value tip of the week. We'll be right back.
This show sponsored in part by
My Paper Pusher. Consider it done.
Follow the Philanthropy Show on Facebook for behind-the-scenes action, polls, and commentary.
Welcome back to the Philanthropy Show. Andre Kerwin, who is the founder of No Strings Attached, with us today, a man who started from gratitude through passion, developing a community-based program that has made the difference in how many people now have taken part in this in the past 7 years,
I'd
8
say
years?
probably 2,500 to 3,000 homeless.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
That's fabulous. So At the point that you had a great turnout for your first email, which was just an email, hey, you guys, let's do this together. When did you realize you needed to create a nonprofit around this?
I'd say probably within a year or two of that, when I started to see the volume of the people that were coming out, as well as the volume of donors, and then also the volunteers that were coming out on the mornings of. Really needed more structure, and we're still in the process of implementing more structure, but it started to take on a life of its own to the degree where we were getting awards, and we were being nominated for awards, and I said, you know what, we really need to give this some definite structure, and that's kind of how we started the nonprofit trail.
Oh, that's amazing. And we do have quite a few nonprofits working in the area of homelessness. I think what you have done that's a little bit different than others is targeted 2 days of the year. This is what we're doing. We're gathering up clothing and other items, and then on Thanksgiving Day and on Christmas Day, it's
Yes.
kind of like 2 Christmases.
Sure,
Or 2
sure.
Hanukkahs, or 2 whatever. You get all this
Yeah.
fun gifting. Dr. Neil Sayers, mentor, friend.
Yes,
And
all of the above.
So how did the two of you decide to form this nonprofit?
His son, Trevor, was in middle school and was a baseball player and wanted to go to Jesuit High School, which was my alma mater. And we met through some mutual friends, and he said, I wrote him a letter of recommendation. He got into Jesuit, and he came to me and said, at Jesuit, obviously community service is a big part of being a man for others, and so that's what their mantra is, and so we'd like to get Trevor involved in your nonprofit. And I said, great, that's wonderful. And so he came out, Dr. Sayers and his son and his family came out, and he absolutely fell in love with it, and he was just touched, and he's an incredibly philanthropic man and just a generous person, and he fell in love with it, and he, literally the first time he came out, that was Thanksgiving, and he called me the next day and said, Andre, we've got to do more. And he's like, I got all these ideas, I want to know how you feel about them. He's like, I'm ordering 400 backpacks from Overstock.com, 300 pairs of underwear,
Wow.
socks, and I'm going to stuff them all in backpacks. I'm going to bring it out there. And, his motto was go big or go home. And so he really was the first person, one of the first people that came alongside and just jumped in head first to get involved. And he'd be calling me every week, hey, we got to do this, we got to do that. And he had phenomenal ideas, and he was just very excited. And so that's kind of how that partnership formed.
I love that. And he passed away 3 years ago now.
He did, yes.
Wow. Well, we thank Dr. Sayers and his family for everything that has been
Absolutely.
helping with the homelessness issue in Tampa Bay. That issue is so vast. Do you ever feel like, well, I'm helping 2 days a week, but what else?
Absolutely. And
I mean, 2 days a year.
that's something that, that's why we did the website. We just recently created a website, because when we're out there on those mornings, people come up to us and say, well, where do we find you in between? And, the donor base has grown to the degree where I have collections all year round. So I literally, from the time Christmas is over, people will start saving clothes for me, and they know it's usually closer to the time of Thanksgiving, but they'll start donating to me earlier on. And so what I'll do is I'll kind of just throw together a couple backpacks, leave them in my car, and as I see people, I'll be like, hey, what's your size? Or do you have this need, or do you have that need? Where are you going to be tomorrow? Or, if I'm driving into work, hey, will you be here on this corner tomorrow? Yes. Okay, what's your size? What's your shoe size? I'll bring you some toiletries, this and that. I'll just pack it up and leave it in my car. So we definitely make donations during the course of the year. But the website will allow people to find us during the course of the year, because it's harder for them to find us than for it is for us to find them.
What do you see as the biggest challenge with because that issue is huge, and I know that there are quite a few communities throughout Florida that are really trying to look into the causes and how can we work towards those causes, because we are helping with the
Sure.
outcome in helping in feeding the homeless and clothing the homeless and finding temporary housing if we can, shelters and whatnot. But how do we solve this issue from its core, from its beginning?
That's a monumental task. It really is. And what we're trying to do is reach and affect one person at a time. And I think, when you get caught in the weeds of how big the actual issue is, then it can kind of create that paralysis of analysis. So we just jumped in year one and watched it kind of snowball and see where it leads. But it's really a situation where we're just trying to do our part and leave this community in a better situation, a better state than which we found it. But it's a monumental task. There's health issues, mental health issues. Some of them have chemical dependency issues. It's a vast issue. So it's a difficult task to cure, but we're just trying to do our part.
You know, you've mentioned that you carry backpacks in your car, and there's probably many of you are familiar with the viral post on Facebook about how you could put together a little lunch bag or something full of different items. And if somebody wanted to do that, what are some of the common things that they would be looking at? And we could put a graphic up here,
Sure.
like toiletries or what?
Toiletries,
As in
shampoo,
toothbrush,
toothbrush, shaving cream, things that we wake up and use and don't really process and think about, but shampoo, deodorant, powders, feminine products, all of the above. Anything that you and I would use is something that they would need. And you don't really, like, for example, there's a lady that comes out each year. First year she came out, she's like, hey, you have any smell good? And I'm like, smell good, smell good. I was like, deodorant? And she's like, no, smell good, smell good. I'm like, a perfume? She's like, yeah. So every year, sometimes people will donate perfume, and if I have some, I'll give her, but if not, then I'll just kind of go out and buy her a little package, and I call her nickname is now Smell Good. So it's just, there's things that come up when you're out there, and they're like, hey, do you have this, do you have that? And I'll be like, well, no, but I'll put that in my mental Rolodex for next time, and we'll try to accommodate.
we are going to take another break, but when we come back, I want to talk to you more about the people that you've met and their stories and how they've impacted you and that level. So we are going to take a quick break. Up next, our value tip of the week and more with Andre Kerwin.
This show sponsored in part by
Our studio sponsor, the Nonprofit Leadership Center of Tampa Bay.
Follow the Philanthropy Show on Facebook for behind-the-scenes action, polls, and commentary.
Hi, my name is Lorraine Faithful. I'm with the Nonprofit Leadership Center. Starting a nonprofit organization involves research, thought, and planning before you expend money to incorporate and before you apply to the IRS for the nonprofit tax status. And this is, of course, because you want your new venture to be successful. Therefore, it's worth your time to think and plan and to thoroughly develop these 5 essential ingredients. The first is to have a vital mission. The next is to have programs and services that will be high quality, responsive, and unduplicated in your community. Next, have revenue streams that are diverse, reliable, and sustainable. Also have clear lines of accountability, and last, have adequate facilities. For help developing these elements and for additional information on nonprofits, visit our website at nonprofitleadershipcenter.com.
Love those value tips. Back now with Andre Kerwin talking about the issue of homelessness and his nonprofit that he founded in 2007, No Strings Attached. And we were talking before the break about the backpacks, things that we could put in little lunch sacks or bags to hand. Tell me more about the people that you meet and what their stories are, the impact that you've had just from really getting to know them.
And that's why we do what we do. We obviously wanted to form the nonprofit and service a need, but it's really about the hope and the love and letting them know that they're not forgotten. Every year that I show up, there's at least one person that will say, we knew you would show up again, and we knew you wouldn't forget about us. And to me, that's one of the intangibles that I can leave with. It's not about me, but it's just the need and being able to fill that need. The stories, they're gut-wrenching, to tell you the truth, some of them. I mean, there was a gentleman that hadn't changed his underwear in 4 months. And he got a pair, went behind a dumpster, and he put them on. I watched what he was doing, and then he came back and, he gave me a hug, and he's like, thank you. And he just started crying, and I said, well, what's your situation? He's like, I haven't changed my underwear in 4 months. Wow. To us, it's just basic dignity, that's basic. There was a lady on the street, a young girl, 17 years old, about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. She was in a wheelchair, and I noticed that she was just kind of off to the corner, and there's people helping put stuff on her chair. And I asked the gentleman, I said, what's her situation? And I noticed there was only females around her. And he's like, well, she's got no arm. I couldn't see because she had clothes kind of draped on her. And they're like, she has no arms, no legs, and she had recently been raped on the street.
Oh,
And now rape is sick to begin with, but no arms and no legs. I mean, there's no opportunity to defend yourself. And she was pregnant. And she hadn't had any prenatal care. She hadn't been to the doctor. And I went over to talk to her, and the guy was like, she's not going to talk to anybody. It's a male. And so we had some of my female friends were with me, and they went over and talked to her, and they're like, hey, can we at least get you to, get some prenatal care? Can we get you to the hospital? And it took a while. It took probably about an hour for them talking to her, and they finally allowed us to call an ambulance, and they came and got her and took her away. But just the stories like that kind of go on and on.
well, that's got to be, for you to be able to see this every time you go down there. On the one hand, I feel your compassion, and I'm sure that everybody watching this can too, but there's got to be some frustration there that this keeps going on. How do you do it? I mean, how do you say, okay, we've got to get this problem fixed, or, that seems so big, and yet you continue to...
It's huge, and I'm encouraged because I work downtown, and I'll be walking to a lunch meeting, and I'll see someone will come up and say, hey, they call me either the football guy or the pastor, like Pastor Kerwin, or some of them call me Andre. But they'll come up and like, hey, I just got an apartment, or there's stories of hope and there's stories of triumph. I'll run into people all the time like, hey, you can be out there, we'll see you on Thanksgiving or Christmas, and I'm working now, I've got a job. And last year there was a gentleman and his girlfriend. He's like, you probably don't remember me, but a year ago we were homeless, and now I was able to get a job. I've got a little apartment around the corner. It was actually a room above someone's garage, not too far away from where we were set up. And he was getting clothes. He's like, we have a job, but it just isn't just enough to keep the roof over our head. Mm-hmm. And so this, they come in annually, get their clothes, and it pretty much takes them to the next time they see us. So we were able to fill those gaps. And so he had so much clothes. He's like, hey, do you think you can drop me off at my place? I'm like, absolutely. So him and his girlfriend jumped in, and I dropped them off on my way home. So there are stories of hope and success, but like you mentioned, it's such a monumental task, and it really takes the whole community to pitch in at what level they can, and obviously, hopefully, there'll be more programs to help those that want to help themselves. We're big on not giving a hand out, but a hand up, and really, it starts with hope. It starts with hope. It starts with people feeling like they're not forgotten, because so many of them feel like there's nobody that cares. And through this process and all these years of doing this, there's a lot of people that care.
I just love this show. I love this man is amazing.
Thank you.
Your heart is amazing. And, I think sometimes we get so busy doing the work, that we forget the why. That love of humanity is what this is about. That's what philanthropy is.
Sure.
Which I feel like this whole segment has been a Truth or Care segment. So I'm going to ask you anyway, because this is what we ask as our closing question. But what is your definition, your heart's definition of philanthropy? Why do you do what you do?
For me, it's the biblical passage, Luke 12:48, to whom much is given, much is required. And that's really how this started, when I woke up that morning really feeling fortunate and blessed to have a roof over my head, to have my parents right down the road I know I was going to their house for Thanksgiving dinner, not worrying about where the next meal or where the next provision would come from. And it was really about that passage. I've been so blessed, I've been so fortunate. There's so many people around us that have needs, and I don't want to count my blessings at the misfortunes of others, but it just really was awakening to me to say to myself, there's more that I could be doing, and then it's just kind of blossomed organically from there, which is a beautiful thing.
No, your soul is beautiful. Thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on the show. And I want to let people know your website for No Strings Attached.
Yes, it's www.nosacares.org. So that's nosacares.org.
All right, you got it. Andre Kerwin, a man who leads with his heart and with gratitude. Thank you so much. And that has been The Philanthropy Show. Go out there and love us some humanity. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Do you have an idea for the Philanthropy Show? Contact us via our website or email us at tps@myvideovoice.com.